Welcome to my channel, Learn English, where we help you improve your English through real stories, natural expressions, and clear narration. In today's episode, we're going to listen to a powerful and inspiring story about how to build confidence in your abilities. This story is not only great for learning English, it's also full of motivation and life lessons that many of us can connect with. As you listen, pay attention to the vocabulary, sentence structure, and tone. Try to understand the meaning from context, and don't worry if you don't catch every word, just keep going. This is a great way to train your ear and improve your listening skills. You can even pause and repeat parts to practice pronunciation. So, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and let's begin this beautiful journey into the life of someone who learned to believe in themselves, step by step. Are you ready? Let's get started. In a quiet corner of a fast-paced city, there lived a woman named Eliana who, for most of her adult life, had silently struggled with the feeling that she was not enough. She was accomplished by most external standards, holding a degree from a respected university, earning steady promotions at a prominent marketing firm, and being well liked by her peers. But none of it ever seemed to fill the persistent gap she felt inside. She would often find herself standing in rooms where everyone appeared to speak with ease and certainty, while she measured each word in her mind, fearful of sounding foolish or overstepping her competence. Confidence, for her, was like a language she hadn't learned, a tone others seemed to speak natively while she only mimicked. Every accolade she received was met with inner disbelief. She chalked her achievements up to luck, timing, or others' misjudgment of her skills. Her self-perception was tethered to a belief that she was simply playing a role she hadn't earned, and someday, someone would unmask her as an imposter. This self-doubt was not loud. It did not scream or dramatically sabotage her, but it was constant, quiet, and unrelenting. It lived in the pause before she offered a suggestion, in the hesitation before she raised her hand, in the long nights spent rereading emails to make sure she didn't come across as overconfident or underinformed. But one afternoon, after delivering a successful campaign that brought unexpected growth to a major client, she found herself alone in a conference room, staring at the project's outcome spread across slides on her laptop. Everyone had congratulated her, even the senior executives, but instead of feeling proud, she felt numb, even suspicious. Why couldn't she internalize the success? Why did she always feel as though she'd merely survived another day rather than succeeded? In that moment of stillness, something shifted. It wasn't an epiphany or a dramatic realization, but rather a quiet acceptance. She was tired of feeling this way. Not just tired in the way one feels after a long week, but bone-deep exhausted from the constant act of questioning her worth. That fatigue was the beginning of her transformation, not confidence itself, but the will to search for it honestly. She didn't know where to begin, but she made a promise to herself, to stop ignoring the discomfort, to face it with curiosity instead of shame. The first step she took was not grand. It began with observing the thoughts that ran through her mind every time she faced a challenge. She noticed how automatically she assumed others knew more, how quickly she discounted her contributions, how often she defaulted to silence in meetings unless directly asked. With this awareness came clarity. Her lack of confidence wasn't because she lacked ability, it was because she had built a habit of mistrusting herself. That insight gave her the courage to seek guidance. She began meeting weekly with a mentor from her company, someone she admired not just for their knowledge but for their calm self-assuredness. She confessed her struggles, expecting judgment, but what she received was validation. Her mentor shared that confidence wasn't about knowing you'll always succeed, it was about trusting yourself enough to take the risk anyway. That perspective was foreign to Eliana. She had always equated confidence with certainty, but here was someone saying it could exist alongside doubt. That idea fascinated her. Determined to explore further, she started reading books on growth mindset, imposter syndrome, and the psychology of self-belief. She learned that many high-achieving people battled the same feelings, and that confidence wasn't something you were born with, it was something you could build, like strength, with repetition and resilience. Encouraged by this knowledge, she made a decision that scared her. She volunteered to lead the next department-wide strategy meeting. The idea of standing in front of 30 colleagues and guiding them through complex planning triggered all her old fears. But this time, she approached it differently. Instead of obsessing over being perfect, she focused on being prepared. She spent hours researching, organizing her thoughts, and rehearsing aloud. She practiced not to eliminate nerves but to build familiarity. And when the day came, she still felt the adrenaline surge, but it didn't paralyze her. Her voice wavered briefly at the start, but she found her rhythm. When she saw her colleagues nodding, engaging, asking questions, something clicked. They weren't waiting for her to prove herself. They were participating with her because they respected her. When the meeting ended, a senior manager pulled her aside and said, "You should do more of these. You lead with clarity and calm." She smiled, thanked them, and for the first time, she felt like she could receive that compliment without deflecting it. That experience became a turning point. Not because it erased all her doubt, but because it gave her a new memory to lean on when the doubt returned. Confidence, she realized, was not about silencing fear but about speaking even when fear was present. It was a muscle, and she had just flexed it. So she kept going. She began challenging herself regularly, not by chasing huge milestones but by setting consistent micro goals that nudged her beyond her comfort zone. She made it a rule to contribute at least one original idea in every team meeting, even when she was unsure. She started reaching out to professionals outside her department, networking not to impress but to learn. She even began writing internal blogs about campaign strategy and lessons learned, sharing her insights in her authentic voice. These small acts compounded over time. Her colleagues began to look to her for input, not because she had suddenly become the smartest person in the room, but because she was now willing to speak, engage, and own her perspective. With every interaction, her internal narrative shifted. The voice that once said, "You're not good enough," became quieter, and a new voice emerged, saying, "You're growing. Keep going." One of the most powerful moments in her journey came when she was asked to mentor a junior associate. At first, she hesitated. Who was she to guide someone else when she still questioned herself? But she accepted, and in those sessions, she found herself repeating the lessons she had just begun to internalize. That confidence is a byproduct of action, that failure is not fatal, that you don't need to know everything to add value. Teaching these principles forced her to embody them more fully. She started to believe what she was saying, not because it sounded good but because it aligned with her lived experience. Through mentorship, she realized that confidence is not just a personal asset, it is a gift we offer others when we model it with humility and honesty. It allows us to create spaces where others feel safe to grow, speak, and experiment. That realization transformed how she showed up at work. She no longer approached projects with a scarcity mindset, afraid of being exposed. Instead, she embraced collaboration, welcomed feedback, and celebrated the progress of others without feeling diminished. But her journey wasn't linear. There were setbacks. There were days when an offhand comment would trigger her insecurity, or when a project didn't go as planned and the old narrative resurfaced. In those moments, she returned to the tools she had collected along the way. She kept a confidence journal, where she documented not just her successes but also the efforts she was proud of, regardless of outcome. She practiced mindfulness to stay grounded, reminding herself that thoughts were not facts. She reframed failure as feedback and asked herself, "What can I learn from this?" instead of, "What did I do wrong?" Over time, this approach became her default. The space between stimulus and response grew wider, allowing her to choose growth over retreat. With each experience, her emotional resilience deepened. She became less reactive, more self-compassionate, and more secure in the knowledge that her worth was not conditional on flawless performance. Years passed, and Eliana's career flourished, not because she chased success, but because she pursued authenticity and growth. She became known not just as a capable leader, but as someone who lifted others, who created a culture where confidence was cultivated rather than demanded. She gave talks to new hires, openly sharing her story and normalizing the journey from doubt to belief. Her presence in meetings carried quiet authority, not because she dominated conversations but because she listened deeply, spoke thoughtfully, and acted decisively. She had come to understand that true confidence is not loud, it is steady. It is not about proving superiority, but about standing grounded in your values and showing up fully, even when the outcome is uncertain. In her personal life, the ripple effects were equally profound. She took up public speaking, something she once feared deeply, and used it as a platform to discuss leadership, mindset, and vulnerability. She began mentoring young women outside her industry, creating workshops focused on navigating self-doubt in competitive environments. She didn't position herself as someone who had it all figured out but as someone who had walked the road and could offer a map. Her story became a source of encouragement to others, proof that confidence is not bestowed, but built, brick by brick, choice by choice. And through all this, she remained a student of her own journey, constantly refining her understanding of what it means to believe in oneself. Confidence, she learned, is a relationship with yourself. It is cultivated through intention, reinforced through action, and sustained through compassion. It is not a static achievement but a living practice, one that requires patience, courage, and the willingness to show up even when you feel unready. In the end, Eliana didn't become someone different, she simply became more herself. And that, she realized, was the most powerful confidence of all. Thank you for listening to this inspiring story about building confidence in your abilities. I hope it not only helped you practice your English, but also reminded you that confidence isn't something you're born with. It's something you build through experience, courage, and consistency. Every step forward, no matter how small, brings you closer to believing in yourself. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new episode. You can also replay this story to improve your listening, practice pronunciation, and learn new expressions. Let me know in the comments what part of the story you connected with the most, or if there's another topic you'd like me to cover. Keep learning, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep believing in your own journey. Until next time, stay confident, stay curious, and take care.